Ciao, benvenuti. Today is the Sourdough Starter Day 5. Can you believe 5 days have already gone by? The sourdough has really been doing well. I'm Marisa from All Our Way, and now we have a natural yeast that we're going to be using to make breads, pancakes, pizzas. Anything that you want to do with regular yeast, you can do with a sourdough yeast. It didn't take long at all. In fact, I probably left it, I could leave it probably another day or two and keep feeding it and leave it out on the counter. But right now we're going to give it a final feeding. So again, what we're going to do is we're going to mix this up. What it does is if you leave it out, it'll get way high up. It'll go all the way up to here, and it was down to here, and then it kind of falls again. But you still want to mix all that flour and the yeast, the natural yeast, down. And what we're going to do, I already have everything ready. We have 113 grams of all-purpose flour, unbleached, unbromated. And we have 113 grams of water, which is filtered water that I have. You can use spring water, or you can, if you have highly chlorinated water at your house, just take some water out the night before and let it sit on the counter, and that should really do it. Or use distilled water. I like to use filtered water or distilled water because then I'm guaranteed I'm going to get the very best that I can. So what I'm going to do, here is our scale. And I'm going to turn it on, and I'm going to tare it, which T-A-R-E, which means I'm going to get the weight of this bowl. So I'm going to put it back down to 0. Then I'm going to pour some of this out, 113 grams. Like I've told you, my scale goes up by 5 increments. So for me, 113 grams is a little hard to do. So I go up to 115, which is only just a smidgen more. As I've said before countless times, we're not making a Swiss watch. We do want to be careful with baking, but with this, the 2 little grams, I don't think is going to make that much difference. Look at that. It went immediately down to 110, so I add just up. There it is. This is perfect. All right, right here is 113 grams for all intents and purposes, 4 ounces. Now I'm going to get rid of this. Yesterday's sourdough I did save. I'm going to go ahead and be experimenting this weekend, and I'm going to tell you all about it next week. So I hope you will join me next week. I'm not too sure of the time or the date, but I will post it on All Our Way and make it as an event. So that way you'll know, and you don't want to miss it, because we're going to have some exciting recipes that we're going to be doing. So I'm going to get as much out of here as I can, because I'm going to put it back in, add the ½ cup of water, or 4 ounces, or the 113 grams, and then the cup of flour again, which is 4 ounces, 113 grams. And if you're just joining me, I'm Marisa from All Our Way, and we are building a sourdough starter. This is day 5. That is pretty good. It is sticky. So the nice part about it is, now you won't, once you have it like you want it, nice and bubbly and full of active yeast, you can put it in the refrigerator, and then you can feed it twice a week or once a week. That's okay. I mean, but you won't be having to do this every single day. Now, if you're going to start doing a lot of baking, then you're probably going to want to keep it very, very active all the time. I'm going to take this. This is 113/115 grams that I just put this back in here. And as I said before, it's easier to add the water and mix it up versus going ahead and trying to put everything in at once and getting it all mixed up. So we'll do this. Now, here's a ½ cup of water, which is, it's filtered. That's 4 ounces or 113 grams. And I'm going to go in here and I'm going to mix this up. Make that go down right there. I'm really excited. This weekend we are going to be experimenting with pizza dough. And I have to admit, our yeast pizza dough is fantastic. It really is. Last night was our pizza night, and the dough turned out perfect. It's nice and chewy, crispy crust. The bottom was, oh my gosh, making my mouth water just talking about it. All right, it's nice and mixed. I try to get as much off the side too. I don't want it to dry on there. Okay, now I'm going to add the 4 ounces or 113 grams or cup of all-purpose flour. I've said before that I like to use King Arthur flour. You can use any, there's some really good flours out there, all natural. Just do whatever you like. And in the upcoming weeks, what we're going to do is we're going to experiment with different kinds of flour. I know there's spelt bread, there's just whole wheat, or anything that you want. So it's going to be lots of fun experimenting and seeing which breads we like the best. I've made a semolina bread that was delicious, and I really enjoyed. It was an Italian semolina bread, and it had that yellowy cast, and the flavor was amazing. And when we put it in the oven, it just smelled so good. It had a nice crunchy crust, and I'll tell you what, the sourdoughs are amazing. My daughter has a favorite one that she named My Blue Heaven. And the reason is it has the inside crumb looks purpley and blue. And that is because if you put walnuts in with the sourdough, it'll turn the bread that color. And so it was really funny doing it. And it's really, really good. And we'll make that too. And that recipe I got out of the Bread Baker's book. It was one of the first books that I had ever gotten it with bread. And in it, when I looked in the book, I didn't realize there was a bread that was called Pugliese bread. And that is my maiden name, Pugliese. So that was one of the first breads I made for my parents. And they were so tickled that the bread was named with our last name. All right, so I push this down. Now I'm going to leave this out. I'm going to do this one more time, leave this on the counter. The next time when you get ready to put this in the refrigerator, what you're going to do is you're going to refresh it, put a lid on it, and then put it in the fridge right away. You want the activity to kind of slow down. So we're going to do, I'll put the lid back on here, and we're going to do the same thing with this. We're going to take this over here. Well, first of all, better go ahead and mix this down real well. It does get sticky. You get a few things, but I've got 2 starters going right here, so that makes a little bit of a difference. If you're just going to have 1 starter, well, then you're not going to have as many items on the counter as I do. There we go. A lot of people, once they get their final yeast, their final sourdough, they'll get a crock pot or they'll give it its permanent home. I'm planning on getting some glass containers that are about 32 ounces, and I'll put the sourdough in there, and that way I can see the activity. To me, it's easier to watch when you're doing something like that. All right here, we're going to put this back on here. Again, I'm going to turn the scale on. I just had one of those moments where what is it? It's a scale. Okay, and then put this back on and tare it. There, it's back down to 0, and I'm going to pour this in there. It's up to 120. See, it just takes a bare little bit. There we go. That was hardly anything at all. All right. Move this over. Now I'm going to take the rest of this and pour it in my discard. But I may just go ahead and save this too, because we're planning on doing a lot of different baking, and I'm going to go ahead and start listing the recipes with the recipes that you can make with the discards. I know there's one that King Arthur, I was watching their show that they made, and it was scones. And would you believe I've never made scones? I don't know why. But these were more like, they weren't sweet, they were more like a breakfast where you could split them and have marmalade in them, jelly, or anything you wanted. So if you have any questions, I will answer them. I can't see this far. And every time I try to get live on my computer, I'm always too late. So I have to wait till everything's done. Clean this out really good. Now what I do too is a lot of times when I'm refreshing dough, and which I will do, before I would put this back in here, I would go ahead and rinse it out with cold water. Don't ever try to do dough with hot water. And don't ever try to clean dough with those little scrubbies that have like the nylon and have all the little holes in it. You'll never get the dough out of it. The best thing to do is to soak it in cold water, and then just kind of keep rinsing it with your hand. Get as much out of here as you can, and then put it under cold water to soak. And then just keep rinsing it out and just working it with your hands, and it'll all come out. And then you can wash it in hot water with your scrubby or however else you do it. Otherwise, and we've gone through quite a few scrubbies trying to clean it, and there's no way. You can try to freeze it, it's just stuck in there forever. All right, now I'm going to put this back in here, this is 113 grams. It's the sourdough. And if you're looking at this bowl and you see this bottom, you're probably thinking, that looks like a little kiddie's bowl. Well, it is. This was our first grandson's, and we had it when he used to come over, and we'd feed him. And so I just didn't have the heart. This is the first of the 4 grandsons, but I just didn't have the heart to throw it away. So I use it for things. Use it to measure, whatever. Brings back good memories. Now they're all older, so don't have a chance to feed them or baby them. All right, now I'm mixing the half a cup of water, filtered water or distilled or whichever, and that's 113 grams. Stir that up so it mixes really well. I try to clean the sides, get that all down. See, that cold water really almost makes it melt. But if you put hot water, you can just forget it. All right, it's really melting nicely. Now, I'm going to put the cup of flour, all-purpose flour, back in here. And that is 4 ounces or 113 grams. Mix that up real good. And I am going to let this sit out. Because we'll be using it this weekend. If you're going to be using it for a starter, and it calls for about 1 cup of starter, or 227 grams, you don't want to go below 113 grams of your starter for refreshing purposes. If you see that you're going to have to use more than 227 grams or a cup of starter, then go ahead and feed this a time or two. You know, leave it out and just don't throw any away, don't discard. Just go ahead and remember, we have to vigorously stir this. Get it all excited, get the little yeast going. Okay, now it's nice and smooth. I'm gonna push everything down. I'm going to clean this up, and there you go. So this coming week we're going to discuss more. We can call it, I guess, day 6, and we'll talk more about what to do with it, what to do with your discard. I'm just hoping that you've got your sourdough going, and there you have it. We just went through this. So remember, if you're cleaning things, don't clean them in hot water. Use only cold water. And if you reach the 5th day and you're seeing lots of little bubbles and activity, then I would give it 6 days. Even 7. 7 won't hurt. Feeding it twice. And then after that, after you feed it that last time, go ahead and put it in the refrigerator. And don't forget, you have to get rid of the rest of the starter unless you're going to be using a lot of starter and you want to build that up. So once you take that out, you'll have your basic 115 grams of your starter, so you can go ahead and give it that cup of flour and that half a cup of water. And then just put it right in put it in the refrigerator, put a lid tightly on it. You don't want it to dry out, because you can't. When you're out here, you don't want to put that on tightly. You want to leave that loose. So I'm hoping that you're enjoying this series. I'm excited about sharing more recipes with you about sourdough. If you have a particular sourdough recipe you'd like for me to try out, I'd love to do it. We could do it together. I thought maybe that we could go ahead and show how you make the starter, because it isn't a one-day process when you're building bread. Using the starter, you may be able to use everything up in one day. Sometimes it'll take like 2 to 3 day process, but if you plan your time right, it's not hard to do at all. So I'm hoping you're going to join me next week. Until then, arrivederci. Ciao, ciao. See you.